Back in 2024, I did a video discussing the metal vinyl grails I wanted. Since the list has certainly gotten bigger, let's chat about both the grails I picked up in that time, as well as the ones I'm chasing after now. So before I get to the new list of vinyl grails I'm wanting to get, I thought some of you might like to know about the 2 albums I got from my old list. Pretty excited to have both of these on the format, so let's talk about them. First up is the debut studio album from American speed metal band Agent Steel. This is Skeptic's Apocalypse, released in 1985 by Combat Records. And this one, as well as the next record I'm going to show you, were both sold to me by a viewer of this very channel, so thank you, Christian. I already had the band's follow-up album, Unstoppable Force. I'd still like to snag their Mad Locust Rising EP on that amazing blue vinyl variant. But having the debut gets me one step closer to completing the 80s run of records from this band. And it is a killer record in its own right. Also featuring Juan Garcia, who later went on to Evil Dead, a band we'll definitely be talking about later in this video. As for favorite tracks, definitely Agents of Steel, probably one of the best songs on here. Also Taken by Force, great song. And Bleed for the Gods. Great album. Also managed to get the debut studio album from American power thrash band Nasty Savage. This is Nasty Savage, released in 1985 by Metal Blade Records. And fun fact, this album came out the very same day as a previously acquired Grail of mine, such being SOD's Speak English or Die album. But as for this record, it's a killer blending of US power metal with a strong thrash and speed bent to it, along with the signature vocals of Nasty Ronnie himself. Had this one as a kid, lost it in the purge, but now have it again. Currently, I also have their Indulgence album and would like to get Penetration Point at some point to complete the classic era records. Never heard their 2004 album Psycho Psycho, so feel free to tell me about that in the comments. As for favorite tracks on this one, oh my god, Gladiator, great song. Fear Beyond the Vision, killer song. Of course, Metal Knights, Poses Must Die, all that great stuff. And The Morgue, really love that song as well. Also, not on last year's list, but these are certainly a few OG records that I have been seeking out for quite a while now, so we're going to talk about these as well. Starting with the second studio album from American progressive metal band Queensryche. This is Rage for Order, released in 1986 by EMI. So this one is specifically the sky blue ring cover variant, specifically this part of the design. Only a few thousand of these made it out the door before the label changed their mind about the legibility of the title text, which is in gold against that blue. So the ring got filled in with black instead, and that's the variant that seems that everyone else has at this point. So this one's a bit of a collector's item, basically. Had this cover variant as a kid, and like all of my records in 1987, it got purged. Which is to say that if you haven't watched my Great Purge of 1987 video, you should do that for the context. Anyways, bought this at the 2024 Burlington Record Fair here in Burlington, Vermont. Pretty sure the vendor didn't know what he had because after he finished the transaction and I told him all about this cover, he looked very surprised and maybe a little bit disappointed. At any rate, nice to have this back in my collection. As for favorites, oh my god, Naya Regal, pardon my German, great song. I love every song on this album. How do I pick favorites? I Dream in Infrared is amazing. The single Walk in the Shadows as well as Gonna Get Close to You are pretty cool. Yeah, everything's great on this record. Screaming in Digital, what an awesome song. Yeah, definitely. Queensryche. Also got the debut studio album from American power metal band Sabotage. This is Sirens, originally released in 1983, but reissued in 1985 by Combat Records. So I tell the story on how I got this record in my Colorado vacation record shopping video, so you can check out that video for more of those details if interested. Had the specific version as a kid as well, and I always liked this cover better than the original one. Maybe some of you feel the same way, you can let me know. Still don't have Fight for the Rock, which I'm not hugely motivated to get. Aside from that, I feel I have the lion's share of Sabotage albums that I want at this point, so there you go. Anyways, favorites on this one, the title track, Sirens. I friggin' love that song. Out in the Streets, the version on here is pretty amazing. Living for the Night's pretty cool. On the Run's pretty cool. Yeah, what a killer album. We all know it. And I also bought the third studio album from American thrash metal band Exodus. This is Fabulous Disaster, released in 1989 by Combat Records. So I picked this one up at my local record store, namely Burlington Records. I saw this posted on their Instagram account, and I immediately called them up to put it aside for me. Couldn't miss out on this one. This also completes my 80s run of Exodus albums, already having Bonded by Blood and Pleasures of the Flesh. This is also OG as the Exodus logo changed colors quite a bit in subsequent pressings. You might have one with the logo in red and yellow, or even red and green, but this green and blue was the intended color combo for the logo. Fun facts. Anyways, songs, of course, I do not like the Toxic Waltz. I've discussed that before. But some other songs, the title track is amazing. I love like Father Like Son a lot. Open Season, Verbal Razors. It ends very strongly. Pretty cool. Exodus, fabulous disaster. So that's it for acquired grails. However, there are still others I want to get. So let's talk about the 9 additions to my vinyl grail list, as well as their current US dollar values on Discogs. Starting with the second studio album from British death metal band Bandediction. This is The Grand Leveler, released in 1991 by Nuclear Blast Records. So, I'll say it here, I wasn't really a fan of their first album with Barney on vocals, as I always felt he was a better fit in Napalm Death. Anyways, of the classic Bandediction material, this is likely my favorite album, though I also wouldn't mind OG copies of Dark is the Season and Transcend the Rubicon in my collection as well. After that, I guess I could do reissues to fill in the gaps. Anyways, favorite tracks are Vision and The Shroud, amazing song, studio or live, I love it both ways, as well as Jumping at Shadows. And if you're looking for an OG copy of this album on Discogs, current prices run from $60 to $150 US, with those in acceptable conditions starting at about $90. Not bad, actually. Next is the second studio album from Swiss technical thrash band Coroner. This is Punishment for Decadence, released in 1988 by Noise Records. So I'd actually be fine with either the German or the US pressing of this album, so long as it's OG. They do have different covers, and I do lean more towards the US cover art, so maybe that might affect my decision-making a little bit. Truthfully, I'm more used to this cover. Anyways, favorite tracks are Masked Jackal, of course, as well as Skeleton on Your Shoulder. Anyways, OG copies for the US pressing on Discogs are currently going for anywhere from $75 to $320 US, with most copies in reasonable condition starting at a little over $100. A little steep, but a near mint copy at the low end of that price range might work for me. Next is the debut studio album from British heavy metal band Diamond Head. This is Lightning to the Nations, released independently in 1980. So yes, I'm specifically talking about the original first pressing with the white cover, of which only 1,000 copies exist. Back then it was only known as the White Album, but then picked up its official name the following year. Favorites on this one are definitely It's Electric, it's probably my very favorite Diamond Head song, period, as well as Am I Evil? Of course. Also, I'm betting you could guess that this one is going to go for some serious cash. And of course, it does. Current Discogs prices range from $530 all the way up to almost $2,200 US, with decent condition copies often starting at the $1,000 mark. So, probably not getting this anytime soon. Still, it'd be nice to have. Next is the debut studio album from American thrash metal band Evil Dead. This is Annihilation of Civilization, released in 1989 by Steamhammer Records, and specifically that German pressing with the gatefold. Easily my favorite Evil Dead album, which I once had on CD but stupidly sold off in the late 1990s. I regret that decision. Anyways, favorite tracks are the title track and especially Gone Shooting, killer song. So the Steamhammer pressing on Discogs goes for anywhere between $95 to nearly $300 US, with reasonably decent copies starting at about $160. Very steep for this record, so it would have to come down before I'd even pull the trigger. Next up is the debut studio album from American heavy metal band Heretic. This is Breaking Point, released in 1988 by Metal Blade Records. So this is the only Heretic album to feature the vocals of Mike Howe, who went on to Metal Church soon after. By the way, rest in peace, Mike Howe. And I gotta say, he is on fire on this record, and his voice alone is well worth the purchase price. But it's a great record too. Anyways, favorite track is definitely Enemy Within. If you're gonna hear any song, you should start with that one. Anyways, an OG Metal Blade pressing on Discogs generally starts at around $45 and goes up to around $95 US, with decent condition copies at the low end of that price range. So, not bad at all. Kind of doable, actually. Next is the second studio album from British death thrash band Cancer. This is Death Shall Rise, released in 1991 by Capote SA Records, which is kind of weird considering Restless issued the original CD version of this, but not the vinyl for some reason. At any rate, this is my favorite Cancer album, and I even saw the tour for it along with Deicide and Demolition Hammer. Hands down, they were the best band of the night, and I was excited to see them since they don't often tour the US, back then or now. Anyways, favorite tracks are Hung, Drawn, and Quartered, and especially Burning Casket. Killer song. Also, this was the only Cancer album to have James Murphy on guitar, for fans of that guy. Discogs prices for an OG copy of Death Shall Rise range from almost $150 to almost $230 US, and that's just for VG Plus condition. Overall, too rich for my blood, so for now, I'll stick with my reissue with the reworked cover art. Next up is the second single from American thrash metal band Slayer. This is the Criminally Insane Remix 12-inch single, released in 1987 by Def Jam Recordings. And specifically, the 12-inch version, as the 7-inch doesn't include Postmortem on it. Definitely heard this one from my buddy Eric, who likely still owns a copy of this. It's also got that cool, faster version of Aggressive Perfector on it. Anyways, prices on Discogs for the US pressing range between $40 to $70 US, with those in decent condition on the low end of that price range. Of course, that's $40 for a 3-song single, but it is classic Slayer. I don't have it, so I might have to get this one in the future. Next is the first live album from American heavy metal band Wasp. This is Live in the Raw, released in 1987 by Capitol Records. So there was a space of about 10 months when I was 19 that I was out on my own and wasn't buying much in the way of albums, largely because I was moving around a lot and the cost of living was way too expensive in California to have any real disposable income. So I missed out on this one at the time. But it is from the classic era and I would love to have an OG copy of it now. Current Discogs price range for a US pressing is between $50 to $250 US, with decent condition copies starting at around $60. Would like that price to lower at least a little bit, but I might also find it in a used bin at a record store, possibly a little cheaper, so I might hold out for that. Next up is a compilation live album of various metal bands known as The Ultimate Revenge 2 and released in 1989 by Combat Records. So this is the soundtrack to a home video release from Combat of the same name with live performances from Death, Dark Angel, Forbidden, Faith or Fear, and Raven. Classic show, though I often wondered why the least known band on the bill, such being Faith or Fear, got 3 tracks when the other much bigger bands only got 2 each. Still strange. In any case, since I'm a fan of the home video, I'd love to have the soundtrack on the vinyl format as well. As for prices on Discogs, this one ranges from $75 to $120 US, with decent copies at the low end of that range. So, probably should just get this one at some point. I mean, it's just weird to be a big fan of it and not actually own it. So some solid grails to get, ones which I hope don't put me in the poorhouse once I get them. But I'm sure some of you have your own list of Grail records. You should give me your list in the comments below. Also, let me know if you have some of the ones I'm looking for. I mean, maybe you're well rated on Discogs and you want to sell me some OG copies for a reasonable price. Wouldn't actually mind that, to be honest. Anyways, if you're new to my channel, my name is Matt. This is the Accusation Network, where each and every week I do videos on metal vinyl collecting, as well as classic and modern metal in general. If that sounds really cool and you want to see a lot more videos like that, you should probably subscribe to my channel, if you haven't already done so, of course. At the very least, maybe give a like to this video, maybe share out a few of my other videos, maybe this one as well, with your friends on social media. All of that really supports my channel and be really appreciated. And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.